Hello, everyone. So, today we'll be starting with chapter 4, social justice. And just as we intuitively understand what love means, even if we cannot explain all its different shades of meaning, we also have an intuitive understanding of justice, even though we may not be able to define it precisely. In that sense, justice is a lot like love. In addition, both love and justice, they evoke passionate responses from their advocates. And as with love, no one hates justice, everyone wants justice for oneself and to some extent for others also. But unlike love, which is an aspect of a relationship with a few people whom we know well, justice concerns our life in society, the way in which public life is ordered, and the principles according to which social goods and social duties are distributed. Goods and social duties are distributed among different members of the society. As such, questions of justice are of central importance for politics. After going through this chapter, we will be able to identify the principles of justice which have been put forward in different societies and different periods of time, explain what is meant by distributive justice, then discuss John Rawls' argument that a fair and just society would be in interest of all the members and uh, could be defended on rational grounds. So let's begin by first questioning that what is justice, when we come to talk about it. All cultures and traditions have grappled with questions of justice. Okay. Although they may have interpreted the concept in different ways. For instance, in ancient Indian society, justice was associated with, dharma, and maintaining dharma or a social order was considered to be a primary duty of kings. So first we talk about the ancient Indian society, how dharma, maintaining and associating with dharma, work and duty was considered to be justice. In China, Confucius, he's a thinker, this thing philosopher, sorry. The famous philosopher argued that kings should maintain justice by punishing wrongdoers and rewarding the virtuous. Okay, in fourth century BC, Athens, Greece, Plato discussed. We know who's Plato. Plato is one of the students, of Socrates. Discussed the issue of justice in his book The Republic. Okay, through a long dialogue between Socrates and his friends, you know, Glaucon and Adiamantis, Plato explained why we should be concerned about justice. The young people asked Socrates why we should be just. They observed that people who were unjust seemed to be much better off than those who were who are just. So they said that people who are actually, unjust are better doing in life than who are, they who people than people who are concerned about justice and fairness. Those who twisted rules to serve their interest, example like avoided paying tax and were willing to lie and be deceitful, were often more successful than those who were truthful and just. If one were smart enough to avoid being caught, then it would seem that being unjust is better than being just. You may have heard people expressing similar sentiments even today, that why, what is there in being good? It's better to be bad and, have all the things and whatever you require, right? Okay, then because we've also seen that sometimes when we see in our surroundings that people who lie or cheat, they become more successful, and then we think if they are happy cheating and becoming successful in that way, why should we be just and fair? That question often come to us. So then, Socrates reminds these young people that if everyone were to be unjust, if everyone manipulated rules to suit their own interest, no one could be sure of benefiting from injustice. nobody would be secure, and this was likely to harm all of them. Hence, it is in our own long-term interest to obey the rules and be just. Socrates clarified that we need to understand clearly what justice means in order to figure out why it is important to be just. He explained that justice does not only mean doing good to our friends and harm to our enemies or pursuing our own interests. Justice involves the well being of all people. So this is what justice is, it involves that where all the people, the well-being of all the people, regardless they are our friends, whether they are enemies. Just as a doctor is concerned with the well-being of his or her patient, similarly the just ruler of a just government must be concerned with the well-being of the people. Ensuring the well-being of the people includes giving each person his due. Whatever one person is supposed to get, they should get that, irrespective of what relationship, whether that person has with the authority or in relation with you if you are in power. Okay, so let's talk about key this thing. Okay, they say that to do injustice is by nature good, to suffer injustice evil, but that the evil is greater than the good. And so when men have both done and suffered injustice and have had experience of both, not being able to avoid the one and obtain the other, they think that they had better agree among themselves to have neither. Hence, there arise laws in mutual convenience, and that which is ordained by law is termed by them lawful and just. Glucon's, Glucon look on to Socrates in the Republic. So this is an small part which has been taken from that book. So we came to know that about we read it till here, that why we should obey the laws and be sharp, because if everybody goes in that way of injustice, there's going to be chaos in this world, and in the long term it is in our interest if we obey law and be just. Socrates and we also talked about the greater meaning of justice, which involves that the well-being of all the people. Okay, the idea that justice involves giving each person um, his due continues. Okay, to be an important part of our present day understanding of justice. However, our understanding of what is due to a person has changed from time of Plato. Today, our understanding of what is just is closely linked to our understanding of what is due to each as human. What is due to each as human being. According to the German philosopher Immanuel Kant, okay, so Immanuel is a very famous philosopher, you know human beings possess dignity. If all the persons are granted dignity, they granted dignity, there what is due to each of them is that they have the opportunity to develop their talent and pursue their chosen goals. Justice requires that we give them due and equal consideration to all the individuals. So that's what it is, it is talking here. Next, we come about equal treatment for all. Okay, is that equal treatment of all what we are asking for? Let's see that. Although there might be broad agreement in modern society about the equal importance of all people, uh, it is not a simple matter to decide how to give each person his or her due. A number of different principles have been put forward in this regard. One of the principles is the principle of treating equals equally. Principle of treating equals equally. This is important. Okay. For example, we say now only comparables should be compared, right? You cannot compare an elephant and a rabbit. Okay, you cannot compare elephant and a mouse. Okay, you cannot. And also you cannot compare this thing, a bird to a crocodile. You cannot compare, so only comparables should be compared. It is considered that all individuals share certain characteristics as human beings, therefore they deserve equal treatment and equal rights. Some of the important rights which have been granted in most liberal democracy today include civil rights, such as right of life, liberty, property, political rights like the right to vote, which enables them to participate in political processes, and certain social rights, which would include the right to enjoy equal opportunities with other members of the society. So we are talking about civil rights, okay. Apart from equal rights, the principle of treating equals equally would require that people should not be discriminated against on grounds of class, caste, race, or gender. They should be judged on the basis of their work actions and not on the basis of groups to which they belong. Therefore, if two persons from different castes perform the same kind of work, whether it be breaking stones or delivering pizzas, they should receive the same kind of reward. If a person gets 100 rupees for some work and another person receives only 75 rupees for the same work because they belonged to different castes, then it would be unfair or unjust. Similarly, if a male teacher in school gets a higher salary than a female teacher, then this difference would also be unjustifiable and wrong. So you know the difference now, right? Okay. Now let's look about what is the meaning of proportionate justice. However, equal treatment is not only principle of justice. Sorry, I hope it's visible. There could be circumstances in which we might feel that treating everybody equally would be unjust. How, for instance, would you react if it was decided in your school that all those who did an exam should get an equal marks because they all are students of the same school and did the same exam? Have you Here you might think that it would be not fair if students were awarded marks according to the um, quality of the answer papers, and here you might think it would be more fair if the students are awarded marks according to the quality of their answer papers and also possibly the degree of effort they have put in. In other words, provided everybody starts from the same baseline of equal rights, justice in such case would mean rewarding people in proportion to the scale and quality of their. So this is important. Provided everybody starts from the same baseline of equal rights, justice in such cases would mean rewarding people in proportion to the scale and quality of their effort. Okay, most people would argue that although people should get the same reward for the same work, it would be fair and just to reward different kinds of work differently if we take into account factors such as effort required, the skill required, the possible dangers involved in that work, and so on. If we use this criteria, we may find that uh, certain kinds of workers in a society were not paid a wage which takes such factors sufficiently into account. For instance, miners, skilled craftsmen, or people in sometimes dangerous but socially useful professions like policemen may not always get a reward which is just if we compare it with some others in society may be earning. For justice in society, the principle of equal treatment needs to be balanced with the principle of proportionality. So the principle of equal treatment needs to be balanced with the. So this is important. Ek to this part, that provided everybody they start from the same baseline of equal rights, justice in such case, it would mean that rewarding people in proportion to the scale and quality of their efforts. But sometimes it also happens that they are paid differently, if the skill requires is different, if the effort required is different, and the possible dangers involved are different. Recognition of special needs. Now we have to recognize for people who require special needs. Okay, a third principle of justice which we recognize is for a society to take into account special needs of people while distributing rewards. Into account special needs of people while distributing rewards or duties. This would be considered a way of promoting social justice in terms of their basic status and rights as members of the society, justice may require that people be treated equally. But even non discrimination between people and rewarding them proportionately to their efforts might not be enough to ensure that people enjoy equality in other aspects of their lives in society, nor that the society as a whole is just. The principle of taking account of the special needs of people does not necessarily contradict the principle of equal treatment, so much as it extends it, because the principle of treating equals equally could imply that people who are people who are not equal in certain important respect could be treated differently. So that's what we are saying. Do you get it? People with special needs or disability could be considered unequal in some particular respect and deserving of special help, but it is not always easy to get agreement regarding which inequalities of people should be recognized for providing special help. For example, in examinations, okay, I'll tell you what, when we talk about special needs and require, so uh, there are students, they are deaf to sorry, there are blind students who cannot write their paper, who need assistance in writing. So for them, there is a writer, who writes. Okay, so also the writer is there, and sometimes they get like 30 minutes extra than other people. And because it's in special need, because they already, to communicate, that person will communicate it to the other person, who's writing, and then the that is required, and then that will also lead to a waste of time. So their special needs is, of course, a writer who writes for for them, writer, conveys and just write whatever in the examination hall. Okay, physical disabilities, age, lack of access to good education or health care are some of the factors which are considered grounds for special treatment in many countries. It is believed that if people who enjoy very different standard of living and opportunities are treated equally in all respect with those who have been deprived of even the basic minimum needs to live a healthy and productive life, the result is likely to be an equal society, not an egalitarian and just one. So in the end, above all, we want an egalitarian, just society. We talked about in the previous chapter on equality, and before that on freedom. Also, we talked that there should be, just fairness. In our country, lack of access to good education or health care and other such facilities often found combined with social discrimination on grounds of caste. The constitution therefore allowed reservation of government jobs and quotas for admission to education institutes for people belonging to the scheduled castes and tribes. What is the status of justice? Sorry, why is the statue of justice blindfolded? She is blindfolded because she needs to be impartial. Of course, she needs to be impartial, but I wonder how then does she see the special needs of people? So these two characters are having a conversation that why is the you've seen the you must have seen the statue of justice, in which she holds that balance holds. Okay, so the characters are questioning that why is the character blind, why is the statue blindfolded, matlab put a black scarf around the eyes, and so that the other character is saying that so that she's not impartial to somebody or other. But then they are saying that, how will we, if she's blind folded, then how will she recognize and see the needs of special people, who special needs of the people. Our discussions of different principles of justice has indicated that government might sometimes find it difficult to harmonize the three principles of justice which have been discussed: equal treatment for equal treatment for equals, just like I told you, only comparables should be compared, recognition of different efforts and skills while determining rewards and burdens, provision of minimum standard of living and equal opportunities to the needy. Okay, so that's what we are talking about. This is very important. Pursuing equality of treatment by itself might sometimes work against giving due reward of merit. Emphasizing rewarding merit as a main principle of justice might mean that marginalized sections would be at a disadvantage in many areas because they have not had access to facilities such as good nourishment or education. Different groups in the country might favor different policies depending upon which principle of justice they emphasize. It then became it then becomes a function of governments to harmonize the different principles to promote a just society. So that's what they're saying. The end goal about social justice, is to promote a just society, an egalitarian society, Okay. So let's think on that. Examine the following situation and discuss whether they are just. In each case, discuss the principle of justice that might be used in the defense of your argument. Suresh, a visually impaired student, gets 3 hours and 30 minutes to finish his mathematics paper. So yeah, I didn't know that it's written here also, but I told you like in the examination hall. So it's very fair, Geeta once walks with a limp. The teacher decided to give her also 3 hours and 30 minutes to finish her mathematics. No, that's not true. Madam, that's not fair because Geeta doesn't writes with her leg. If she would have written on with that, then that would have been a different case. But if she uses hands to write, then that's not required to give an extra time. Okay, a teacher gives grace marks to the weaker students in class to boost their morale. uh, a lot of times, not only here grace marks are given. Sometimes it's not necessary that even if the child is not using brains or not putting effort. Sometimes it happens that yes, they are not interested in studying, but sometimes it also happens that they are just weak. So what the teacher does is that they give grace marks. So even in board exams, a lot of times happen that if 34 marks are required for passing an examination, and if the child is getting 32, 33, or 32, then the teacher gives grace marks. So it's okay, it's not unjust. Professor distributes different question papers to different students based on the evaluation of their capability. That's just so if they are saying chalo, they are using their their evaluation is being done on their capability, and professor distributes different question papers to different okay. If we see distributes different question papers to different students based, so they are talking on their capability. So that can also be see, it has to be whether their students are in the same class or not. That has to be seen, and other aspects also. But yeah, there's a proposal to receive reserve 33% of the seats in the parliament. This is true. Uh, so and that is there, that this is still going on to reserve the 33%. We have one third of the seats reserved in the local governance for women, but not in the parliament right now. Okay, so we've seen this. Mm, now if we talk about just distribution, a fair distribution, how what does it mean? To achieve social justice in society, governments might have to do more than just ensure that laws and policies are to treat individuals in a fair manner. Social justice also concerns with just distribution of goods and services, whether it is between nations, between different groups, individuals within a society. Okay, if there are serious economic or social inequalities in a society, it might become necessary to try and redistribute some of the important resources of the society to provide something like a level playing field for citizens. Okay, so redistribute level playing field. Therefore, within a country, social justice would require not only that people be treated equally in terms of the laws. Sorry, in terms of the laws, uh, and policies of the society, but also that they enjoy some basic equality of life conditions and opportunities. This is seen as necessary for each person to be able to pursue his or her objective and express himself. In a country, for an instance, the constitution abolished the practice of untouchability to promote social equality and ensure that people belonging to lower caste have access to temples, jobs, and basic necessities like water. Different state governments have also taken some measures to distribute important resources like land in a in a more fair manner by instituting land reforms. So land reforms have always been very debatable topic. Search land reforms and look at all the various judgments on that also. Okay, difference of opinion matters, such whether and how to distribute resources and ensure equal access has always been a very important issue to education and jobs, arouse fierce passion in society and even sometimes provoke violence. It has also been a very strong creator of violence. People believe that the future of themselves and the families may be at stake. We have only to remind ourselves about the anger and even violence which has sometimes been aroused by proposals to reserve seat in educational institutions or in government employment in our country. As students of political theory, however, we should be able to calmly examine the issue involved in terms of our understanding of the principle of justice. Can schemes to help the disadvantaged be justified in terms of theory as justice? Do you think? In the next section, we'll discuss the theory of just distribution put forward by the well-known political philosopher John Rawls. Rawls has argued that there could be indeed a rational justification for acknowledging the need to provide help to the least privileged members of the society. Okay, every society has people who have been at a disadvantaged, being disadvantaged due to various reasons. Okay, so now let us look at John Rawls' theory of justice. What is his theory? If people are asked to choose the kind of society in which they would like to live, they would likely to choose in which the rules and organizations of society allow them a privileged position. So if I am supposed to make laws for anything, or any institution or whatever, I will make the rules which favor me. That is there, that's gonna favor me and put me in a better position. We cannot expect everyone to put aside their personal interest, and I don't think so anybody who is going to put their personal interest aside and think of this good of the society, of the good for the people, especially if they believe that their decision is going to have an impact on the kind of life and opportunities their children will have in future. Indeed, we often expect parents to think of and support what is the best for their children, but such perspectives cannot form the basis of a theory of justice for society. So how do we reach a discussion that would be both fair and just? How do we go about it? Okay, so how do we do that, and go about it? So John Rawls, has tried to answer this question. Okay, he argues that the only way we can arrive at a fair and just rule is if we imagine ourselves to be in a situation in which we have to make decisions about how society should be organized, although we do not know which positions we would ourselves occupy in that society. That is, we do not know what kind of family we would be born in, and whether we would be born in upper caste or a lower caste family, rich or poor, privileged or disadvantaged. Rawls argue that if we do not know in this sense who we will be and what options would be available to us in the future society, we will likely to support a decision about the rules and organization of that future society, which would be fair for all the members. So if we do not know what position we are going to hold in the future, or what position are in that situation, then most chances are that we will come to decide a situation which is fair for all the members. Rawls describes this as a thinking under the veil of ignorance. Veil, veil, sorry, veil is नकाब, ऐसे जो ढकते हैं ना, नकाब. He expects that in such a situation of complete ignorance of about our possible position and status in a society, each person would decide in the way they generally do, that is in terms of their own interest. But since no one knows who he would be and what is going to be, what is going to benefit him, each will envisage matlab is imagine the future from the point of view of the worst of. It will be clear to a person who can reason and think for himself that those who are born privileged will enjoy certain special opportunities. But what if they have a misfortune of being born in a disadvantaged section of society where few opportunities would be available to them? Hence, it would make sense for each person acting on his or her own interest to try to think of the um, rules of organization that will ensure reasonable opportunities to the weaker section. This attempt will be able to see important resources like education, health, shelter are available to all the person even if they are not part of the upper class. If it is of course not easy to raise our identities and to imagine ourselves oneself under one veil of ignorance, but then it is equally difficult for most of the people to be self sacrificing. Okay, why would you sacrifice for other people? No, you wouldn't, and share the good fortune with strangers. That is why we habitually associate self sacrifice with heroism. Given these human failings and limitations, it is better for us to think of a framework that does not require extraordinary actions. The merits of the veil of ignorance position is that it expects people to just be their usual rational selves. They are expected to think for themselves and choose what they regard to be in their interest. The pertinent thing, however, is that they choose under the veil of ignorance. They will find that it is in their interest to think from the position of the worst off, matlab who is most disadvantaged. Wearing the imagined veil of ignorance is the first step in arriving at a system of fair laws and policies. It will be evident that rational persons will not able to see things from the perspectives of the worst off. They will also try to ensure that policies and frameworks benefit the society as a whole. So society as a whole, both things have to go hand in hand. Since no one knows what position they will occupy in the future society, each will seek rules that protect them in case they happen to be born among the worst of. But it could make sense if they also try to ensure that chosen policy does not also make those who are worst off weaker who are better off weaker, because it is also possible that they could be born in a privileged position in the future society. Therefore, it would be in the interest of the all society as a whole should benefit from the rules and policies that are decided and not just by any particular section. Such families would be the outcome, such fairness would be the outcome of a rational action and not benevolence like being kind or generosity. So that will be more logical, what we mean to say. Why do they say justice delayed is justice denied? Why do you say that? Because if a decision is, in a dispute is delayed too long, to the injured person may not receive any benefit from the judicial proceedings. What would be the use of getting the decision if one's favor after one is dead? What is the point? The decision comes after the person dies. How will it benefit?